What is the mind? What is this thing, this object, this entity that lives in all of us? We can't operate without the mind. It's like it's like in the Matrix where, Neo comes out of, like he did the fall and he hurts himself and he's like bleeding and he's like I thought it wasn't real. He's like, your mind makes it real. He's like, if you die in the Matrix, do you die here? And then Morpheus is like, the body cannot live without the mind. Like, everybody has this thing in them, but very few understand it. And I'm not talking about like a psychological analysis of what the mind is. Although, when you zoom out far enough and you're talking about spirituality, it can't help but encompass, it's like the umbrella of everything. So different aspects of our lives, philosophy, psychology, you know, the different sciences, they point to aspects of the mind. But what is the mind? Like, what is this thing that we all have? It's been said, you may or may not have heard this, maybe, I don't know, but like, your mind is a tool. Your mind, not only is it a tool, it's the most powerful tool that exists, on the face of the earth. And we don't, the majority, most people don't know how to harness that tool. And so what ends up happening is that the mind is using you because you're attached to it. The mind is using you. You are not using your mind. You haven't brought it back into its center. You haven't, as they say, made it quiet or quiescent like Ramana Maharshi does. And that's why I love, Ramana Maharshi and Robert Adams and like the non-duality aspect of what the mind is, or spirituality, and discussing what the mind is, because it's like a process of elimination. It's like, make it quiet, bring it back into its root, the I, the singular I, the me in my head. Out of all of those things spawns this mind. It's a relational thing. It can't exist except in relation to other things. I am my mind, and then there's like the object relational aspect of what the mind is. And so Ramana Maharshi's like, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my senses, I'm not this like idea I have of me. It's like a process of elimination. If I'm not those things, then what am I left with? What is the true core of who I am? The true core of who you are is the object of awareness. It's not even an object, it's just awareness, consciousness, peace, bliss. And then that is the aspect of you that is the divine, the God particle that lives in you, that's noticing everything, that's aware. You don't have to think. You don't have to be in your mind to exist. You can just look without like labeling stuff with your mind. You're like, oh, look at this tree, look at these leaves, and look at this trail and where it goes, and look at these branches and all this different stuff, and you're like, look, oh, how beautiful, and you're labeling it. Just let it be. And so your mind is this tool, but because you're identified with it, like Eckhart says, because you think it's you, because you think your thoughts are you, that you get lost in the thoughts, because you're so convinced by this external reality that you're living in, this three-dimensional reality that you're living in, which is what the mind is. It's based on the three-dimensional. It is an object. It's like a fleeting object, right? But it's based on this three-dimensional reality that has been created for us to play in. All of the thoughts that you have are based on the physical world and in relation to other things. So I think of myself in relation to other things. I think of other things in relation to themselves. I'm comparing and contrasting. That's what the duality is. The good and the bad, the up and the down, you know? There has to be that contrast. That's the object reality of the mind, this tool. It's like little hair that just wants to annoy me. Like a alfalfa just popping up. Sorry. It annoys me. Shouldn't bother me, but it does. Go away, you fucking hair. Where do you wanna sit? Tell me where you wanna sit, and I'll put you there. Come on. Where do you wanna sit, you fucking, now I made it worse. You stupid hair. Is that gonna fix it? Not really, but kind of. Just okay. Sorry for that. Where was I? The mind. Ooh. The most powerful tool that there is. The most powerful tool. And it uses you. You don't use it. I mean, sometimes you use it. Sometimes you might. I mean, sometimes you get inspiration, and it's like it's guiding you naturally, and you're using. It's like, oh, I've harnessed this most powerful thing. But the vast majority of the time, we're like, it's just spinning. It's just repetitive nonsense, just bullshit that's being told to us, just pops up. And you'll notice that when you get quiet, when you have meditated a little bit and you learn how to pray, and I mean, it doesn't take a lot to learn how to pray, but what I'm saying is, when you're directing the mind, like when you're like, let's say, for example, you're going to sit down and you're going to pray. You're speaking, right? Aren't the thoughts that are popping up in your head, like, let's say you're not speaking your prayer out loud, but you're just thinking it, because God hears everything. Your thoughts are heard in the galaxy, in the universe. Your thoughts are a reflection of the universe, and the universe are a reflection of your thoughts. It's all just like embedded in itself, okay? But you have this prayer that you're thinking. You're like, God, please help me, for example, right? God, I need this, or please look after my mom, she's sick, or my grandma, or my brother or my sister, and like, I could really use your help. When you're in that place and you're thinking those thoughts and it's a prayer, it isn't like this repetitive void nonsense that just like, cycles on repeat and is just like this loop. It's you harnessing your mind in that moment. But why don't you do that all the time? Why can't you carry that intentionality out with your mind? Right? Why does it always have to be this unruly beast that's just like flowing constantly, just like sieging your internal state of being? It's just like this war, It's constant battle, the good and the bad, the angel in your head and the demon in your head, the truth and the lie, right? Like, that's why we've created this personification of the devil and the negativity and the evil, because the devil lies. So the shadow, the darkness lies. And then if you eliminate the lie, if you identify it and you look at it and you don't start buying into it, because you're giving yourself to that lie if you keep listening to it and thinking that it's you. You keep giving yourself into it. If you eliminate that, what you're left with is the true aspect of yourself, the truth, the good that you align yourself with. What you have to understand is your mind is like, we've turned it into, through like the conditioning, through us living our lives and learning and building up a vocabulary and building up language and maybe multiple languages and information and experiences, right? We're storing stuff in our head, and then this memory comes current, and then out of that knowledge, experience, wisdom, memory, we create in the current. reality. And that's why when you're a kid, you don't have the frame of reference to create. You keep growing and growing and growing, and then that's why wisdom comes supposedly when you're older, because you've experienced enough, you've seen enough, and now you're creating out of a wealth of abundant experience, hopefully. Maybe you've learned a thing or two, okay? But your mind is this, it's like it's easy to think of it for me as like this onion, right? Multi-layered onion, and the different layers of the onion are the different aspects of who you are. You're your job. You think you're your job, right? You're like, who am I in the world? I carry myself in the world as this career, right? This job that I have, and I derive my sense of self from this job. That's who I am. You go ask somebody, what do you do? Who are you? Oh, well, I'm a politician. I'm a teacher. I'm a janitor. I'm a mechanic. I'm a student, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of your profession when you're a kid, right? You're a student. But that's not who you are. You're so much more than just this one little like 9 to 5 job that you do. What are you when you sleep? What are you when you're walking outside in the woods? What are you when you're like talking to your best friends? What are you when you're eating? What are you when you're making love? All of that exists in the mind too, right? Those are the roles that you play, and you identify with each of those roles. And then also, it's not just the roles, it's the information that you carry, your thoughts, your beliefs. These are part of you too. And you identify with your beliefs, you identify with some of your thoughts, maybe a lot of your thoughts. And so what's real, what's not real? And so these layers of consciousness and all of these thoughts, these things, these pieces of information that you have in your mind, it's so layered and so complex, and all of us have it. We're all carrying around different aspects here, and it flows out of you, and then it feeds into your feelings and your emotions, and then it's like this like feedback loop. Your mind, and then you think something, and then you're scared, and then you feel the fear, in your gut, and then it's like this whole reactive process. You're learning through it, right? But the exercise for me is, how do I get out of my mind? How do I disassociate, right? Like in mental illness, it's like, oh, he dissociated. He dissociated. What I'm talking about is like a conscious dissociation of the mind. An aware, like stepping back from the mind and observing it. And then what's left? Oh no, now I have these feelings. I have this energy that pops up and it wants to make itself aware. In me, it's flowing through me, in my toes, up through my legs, into my like lower body, up through my the abdomen, and my arms, and like my head and my neck and everything. It's just like this energy flowing up and down. But when you're in your head and you're thinking and you're doing, you're not really like fully aware of what's going on in your body. Maybe you feel some pain and you're like, oh no, I'm aware of this pain, and like it starts fucking with you. You're like, oh, this pain, That's when we're aware of stuff, but we're not like sitting aware of ourselves, because the mind is like so front and center. And so the exercise, the quintessential like idea, the trying, what you're trying to do is to step back from the mind and be present. And then the mind naturally falls back into itself. But how do you start doing that? How do you get to that place? Well, that's why they keep telling you to meditate. It's like, but I don't want to. That meditative stuff, it's so woo-woo. It's such bullshit. What? Because when you meditate, you start observing. You're like, what are these incessant thoughts? Like, I can't, because like I have ADHD and I just like, I can't quiet myself. It's just always on. I just can't. I have to be on the go. I can't sit still. What a torturous way to live. To not be able to be still. Because out of the stillness is where you see. And you have this mind that's so multi-layered, okay? It's like you have this God that everybody has, like it's this personal God, my God and your God, and like religion, and you have like 50,000 different religions, and they all point to the same truth. Just different cultural periods of time that are creating a snapshot of what God is. That's what your mind is. It's different snapshots of different pieces of information. Think of God as the entire universe. But it's not just the known universe that you see. He's also in the unseen. So I'm using words, right? So I have to say seen and unseen, the isness and the nothingness, right? But even that's dual. He's everywhere in between too. He's outside of duality. We exist in duality in our minds because that's how we create this relational aspect. But the divine, the thing that you're trying to tap into, is the everything that is beyond the duality. That is your mind, the duality, right? Your mind can only be duality. That's like the important lesson here. The good and the bad. There's no such thing as good or bad, motherfucker. When you zoom out far enough, there's no such thing as good or bad. Good or bad only exists in the human mind. God and the devil. There's no devil, man. There's just God, and then his little plaything, the devil, that is a part of God. The everything is God, the divinity, the universe. And so you have these different religions, these different archetypes, these angels and beings and truth tellers and role models and people that we have put up on pedestals, right? Like the Archangel Michael or Saint Germain, Saint Anthony the Great, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Ramana Maharshi, Yogananda, Babaji, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Socrates, Plato, Descartes, all of the greatest truth tellers and thinkers and philosophers pointing to the same things. And it's all a bunch of different information that's colored on their own experiences and their own cultural timing when they grew up. What was going on when they were growing up? Like you have Jesus, for example. He was this dude who was so pure and love and centered, right? He was this amazing person. But he had his own conditioning, just like everybody else does. And at that time, the Jews were big on the apocalyptic coming of the Son of Man, the Son of God. They're waiting for the prophet. They're waiting for the chosen one to appear. But what they didn't understand, and what everyone doesn't understand, is there are multiple truth tellers and chosen ones that come along for every generation. Because it is each person's destiny to eventually realize their divinity. And so people just show up and they're like, yo, I think I figured a few things out. You guys want to listen to this or nah? You're gonna too short of an attention span, too TikToked out, right? We can't pay attention for more than 30 seconds to a minute because we're just brain rotted the fuck out. I have these these tangents, these things that I just go off on, they just naturally come up. Sorry, talking about the mind, but it's all an aspect of the mind. And so you think about these religions, there's multiple religions, multiple points to the truth. But they're just one little slice of the pie. And when you can find truth through any religion. But the problem is that you get attached to the religion and now you think that religion is a part of yourself. It's like an aspect of you. So you were born into Islam, you were born into Christianity, you were born into Buddhism. And so you have the Buddha and you have Muhammad and you have Jesus as an example. And these guys are God, these guys are the prophets. We've put them up they're just like you or me, but they just glimpsed truth. They found truth and spoke about it. They searched for the truth, or it just came to them. Like for Muhammad, it just came to him through the Archangel Gabriel. And the Archangel Gabriel is an aspect of the divine. It's basically like God's messenger coming and saying, hey, I have this message for you. Do you want to share it? And he's like, okay, it looks kind of important and cool, so I think I'll start popping off and spreading the love. It's a really important message to share. We need to keep reminding ourselves every generation of the love so that we don't fuck everything up, which we kind of already are anyway, because so many of us don't believe anymore. or are too convinced in this three-dimensional reality that they don't know how to step back from it and like say like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like you have this like repetitive behavior and you just can't like dislodge yourself from it. This mental thing that just has to be heard. You have to act on it. It's like, oh, it's so important that I like feed this mental noise and like I'm like, oh, I have to keep studying. If I keep studying this one thing, then like and yes, keep looking, keep searching, you'll find it. But don't make it the end all be all of everything that you are. Don't derive yourself from it. These pieces of information that you're carrying around in your head, these thoughts, they're just one little slice of the pie. So many billions of thoughts and things and archetypes and energies, and it's so multi-layered, multi-dimensional, multifaceted, and they're all just one little tiny fragment of the greatness of all that is, the master of the universe, the divine God, oh, in everything. This tree that I'm looking at in the distance, that's me. When I become quiet enough and I don't have this mental noise, I see it in me and me in it. How is that possible? How do I arrive at that conclusion? Because what you realize is that everything that is, all of your thoughts, all of the things that you've ever learned in your past, all of the movies and the TV shows and the people that you've met and the experiences that you've had, every single little thing, the tiniest thing, becomes a part of you because you experience it. But you don't have to even directly experience it for it to be a part of you. It can be on the other side of the galaxy and still be a part of you. It just exists in the background. You cannot consciously be aware of everything because it's going to overload this little pea brain that we have. That's why the subconscious is so vast. That's why science is never going to truly touch the subconscious. You can't, because it's too vast, it's too great. It contains, it's a mirror, it's a reflection, it's a replica of everything, and it exists in you. It's like a little like you know those like lie detectors and like they have the needle and it's like that, but that's going on in the back of your mind, like in your subconscious. It's just like it's registering everything out there, keeping tabs. And when it wants to come in and make itself conscious, it's gonna drill its little hole, you know, like a fucking oil driller, like drilling to get to the oil. And the oil is like your conscious mind, and the subconscious is like you're trying to drill, you're trying to. It's like oh, I got it, I have it. This thought. Ooh, what am I gonna do with this thought? Is that thought me? Oh, oh. Is that thought like, what am I going to do with that thought? It's a heavy thought. It's important. Oh, and then like some of us, we have these thoughts and it's like, I'm like nothing. I'm such a loser. And that's not true, but you believe it because it's been playing on repeat. You've given your power to this thought that you have. How silly. And I did it too. And I had to keep digging to find that that was a lie. That the true me that speaks, it is aligned with this love energy. And so like you to get to the true mind, right? Like how Buddhism says right mindedness, to get to that, you have to like process of elimination. What is all this other crap that's a lie? And then like the few things that are like real, they come to the forefront. You like start noticing them in everything. And all of the superfluous, all the extra baggage, all the bullshit, all the many lies that exist out there, you very, very easily start to identify them once you can start picking out a few of them. You're like, if this is a lie, then this is a lie. And if this is a lie, then that's a lie too. And then the whole thing just starts crumbling down before you. And now what you're left with is just like, peace, joy, bliss, the essence of who you are. You have to fucking destroy this massive mansion that you've built in your mind of what you're identified with and what you think is true but really is just an illusion. You have to destroy all of that, and then you're left with the quiescent mind. And now you've tapped into your true power. That's the beauty of it. Because when you're thinking constantly and you're giving your energy constantly to it and you're having thousands of millions of thoughts a day, each individual thought is weakened. There's only so much energy you can give to, I mean, like you're infinite, okay? But like who out there is really tapping into their infinity? It's very few of us that do that. But what I'm saying is you are giving away your energy to all of these thoughts. And the more thoughts there are, the more it's like siphoned off. And when you quiet yourself, each individual thought you have carries more power. And then you focus that thought. And when you focus it with the belief and the energy and the love, now you create the miracle. Now you manifest. It's hard for most of our manifestations don't come in real time because the three-dimensional reality, it's slowed down. It's like the light energy that has become condensed, constricted. And so to create energy, to create a real-time manifestation, you're fighting through the inertia of what the physical is. You have to like blast through it, and it's like, here it is. And so it'll show up over time. God has to arrange things in such a way, and then it's like, oh, here's this sign. Look, I see this thing. And if you're attuned to it, if the noise has kind of subsided, that's why we're trying to get out of our minds, right? We're trying to like step back from it. You'll start to notice the signs. But if your mind's too busy and you're just like looking at the ground and you got your headphones on and you're on your phone and you're just like walking around constantly and you're just like constantly in your mind thinking, processing, doing, listening, observing, like you're just constantly like reacting to this outside illusion, if you're lost in that all the time, then where is the space? Where is that little glimpse gonna come in from? Your attention's somewhere else. Where you point your mind is everything. Where I look, I travel. That's the power of the mind. The true power is that you can project yourself in real time. Like these stories of like people with visions and like epiphanies and like and seeing visions of people on the other side of the world, like people being in two places at once, people levitating. These things are real, man. Believe me. Demons and angels and miracles and healings and like miraculous stuff and like creation and destruction. These things are real, dude. They're real because they exist in our consciousness, and the degree to which you believe in them makes them real. I can't make you believe in anything. I can't. I can't force you to believe. You can have a million different thoughts, and they're all relatively unimportant until you place belief on them. Like, it's kind of like, Neo and Morpheus, and Morpheus is like, Neo, you're gonna realize you're the one. But I can't make you realize it. You have to fucking step through that door and believe. And then towards the end, he's like, oh, he's beginning to believe. And then he starts doing all of this fucking awesome shit. And then at the end, the best part, where he like just gets shot and he gets up and he's like, no. And then he's like, no. And then like you see how he sees and like everything becomes the Matrix. Life, the Matrix is fucking real, bro. I'm not even joking. How I see, it's like the Matrix, man. But it doesn't look like green lettering in a black background for me. It looks like light. It looks like a reflection. It's like everything is shiny. Like if you kind of look at something and you keep looking at it and you let your eyes kind of like glaze over a little bit, you keep looking, you'll see how stuff shines. You'll see how light is everywhere. It's a little sparkle, it's a little glimmer. And it's easiest to notice it when you're outside and the sun is hitting. But you'll even notice it when you're inside too. You'll even notice it when your mind, when you've closed your eyes and you're in your mind and in your third eye, you'll notice it there too. The matrix is all around you. The matrix is your mind. The thought constructs, the constructs, and they become dogma. What is dogma? It's the entrenched beliefs that no longer align with the truth because they're entrenched, because they're static. Nothing is static. So you can't explain the divine, the God. You can't explain the creator, the destroyer, the maintainer. You can't describe the everything that is with something that's static, with an idea, one idea. Like I'm going to tell you, okay, guys, today I've come to tell you about God. Okay? And then I give you one idea. It's like, God is this. What the fuck are you going to do with that? God is this. God is everything. Oh, like, what is everything? Like, you have to, like, go off, like, the one idea, it's like, it's just too simple. It's too nothing to the everything. And so you have this mind, and you don't know how to use it. It uses you. And it is the greatest tool. It is the greatest force, the greatest power that we possess when it is aligned with our being. Not when you're convinced that this three-dimensional reality is real. The true reality lies behind the three-dimensional world, the platform on which this three-dimensional reality exists, the source, right? Like when you go to because I've been using the Matrix reference a lot in this video. I'll go back one more time, right? If you want to know what God is, it's when Neo first gets into the Matrix and Morpheus is first showing him around, and it's like, and he's like, and this is the construct, and it's all this like white background. It would be more accurate to say that it's like this dark background, the nothingness out of the somethingness, that, you know, somethingness comes out of the nothingness. But he's like, and this is the construct, and I can, you know, make cool stuff show up. He's like, if you want guns, and so like out of the nothingness, out of that white background, he's like, here's this row of guns, and here's this reality that like exists, and all this different stuff. But it's not like what you think it is. It's just, it's based on physical law that exists out of the vastness of what God is. You know? Like you have one tiny fragment aspect in you when you're thinking. One little slice, one little sliver, just one little piece. It's like an atom. That's all your thought is. And you think it's you? The vastness of what you are. Like you are, like you think you're small because you're in this physical body. Right? And like we are nothing when we're in the physical. We're nothing. We're just like, we're insignificant. What can we really influence? But behind the animating force, and he breathed in, and then the breath became life. Like the animating force, the light that you are inside is infinite. And so what happens, the infinite part of you becomes like condensed into the physical body. And so then you get convinced by this physical body because you're participating. You're carrying around this little infinite part of yourself, the infinite part that is you, the truest you. And you're carrying around infinity. And it's like billions of different versions of infinity are out here participating in this little three-dimensional world that exists. And only a few get to truly tap into and understand their infinity. And out of that comes the greatness. And where we're headed, where humanity is headed, the prophecy. that's been passed down. Because when you become awakened, you know the eventual outcome is for us to wake up out of this hell that we've created, that we believe, this mind, this trap that we're perpetuating, to wake up out of it. That's like the new earth that Eckhart Tolle talks about in his book. The new earth. Oh, like it's inevitable. It's inevitable, guys. That's where we're all headed. We are all headed to awakening. And the more people that awaken, the more people can come together and like accelerate the new vision of what the world is going to be. But because we're so convinced in this physical, this three-dimensional thing, we're busy hoarding, and we're selfish, and we're greedy, and we're lustful, and we're lost in stuff that doesn't matter. You can participate in the physical world in like the most beautiful and divine way when you've awakened, and you're like, I don't need a bunch of superfluous, I love that word, I use it a lot, a bunch of unnecessary garbage. I don't have to have a mansion. I don't have to have the 3-bedroom house and 2-bedroom with the 2-car garage and the 2 cars and the 2.5 kids and the whatever. It's great. If you want to have those things, fine. But make those decisions of what you need and don't need and what you want and don't want out of a place of stillness. Don't do them because you're mindlessly following the herd, or that you think it adds on to this like sense of self, this illusory sense of who you are. Like everyone is projecting. If you just go out and people watch, you go to a bar, you go to like the mall, you go somewhere and you just watch people, how they carry themselves, what they do, what they say, what's on their minds. That tells you everything about them. It tells you where they are on their journey of souls, where they are on their evolutionary whatever. If you're like on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, and it's like, oh, look at me, like I'm so cool. Look at all these things that I have, and look what I do, and look at me. I'm so and then they're like, I love like the people that think they're spiritual. You know, their sense of self comes from the fact that they're super spiritual, because you can turn even spirituality into an egoic thing. And the like you'll have like these people, they're like, look at me, and I'm in the forest and I'm prancing around and I'm so free and I'm so full of love and I'm so like, look, don't you want to be like me? Look at how beautiful I am in this like wavy dress, and I'm so in touch with my feminine, the divine feminine. I'm so feminine. Look at me, how free I am. And they put it up for their likes, you know, they're like, ooh, like, oh my God, you're so hot, I wish I could be like you, you're so beautiful. And that's what they're trying to get. They're trying to get that following, and like the people, they're like, oh, look at this, look how beautiful he is, and look how beautiful she is, and oh my God, I wish I could be like them. They're so cool and so free. And it's an illusion. Like, yes, be yourself, but first find yourself before you can be yourself. How can you be your most authentic self if you're trapped in your mind? How? The true self is not in the mind. The true self exists behind the scenes, behind the curtain. The curtain opens, it's like your mind comes forward. Oh, all this noise. And that's why all of these scriptures, all of these religious things, these self-help, these spiritual books and stuff, and they're all saying the same thing. Go within. Find your heart. Oh, your heart is the center of you, and get out of your mind and find the peace, and I am that I am. And in the stillness, I find myself. In the stillness, in the stillness. What is this stillness that you speak of? What is the quiet? How can I be quiet in a noisy world? Ooh, that's a tough one, right? When you're out and about and there's tons of stuff happening, you're at like some stadium, right? There's like a baseball game, people are cheering, right? Ah, there's just like madness going on around you. Where is the stillness in that? Well, you're still, and you're observing. You're just looking. And maybe you choose to participate. You're like, I want to yell too. Go Cubs. Go Bears. I'm from Chicago originally, so part of my conditioned self is that I am a fan of the Cubs and the Bears and the Bulls, and that's where I grew up. So I chose that. And at one point, like, I would derive my sense of who I am from these teams that, like, I follow. Like, oh, and then, like, oh, my team did bad, and like, oh, now my team sucks, and I guess I suck too. My whole night is ruined because the Cubs didn't win. Like, how fucking stupid is that? But you can look at it and you can participate and you can have fun with it, but just don't get lost in it. Like, I love watching sports because the competition brings out the fucking warrior in us. Our most, fierce selves, It's beautiful. But all of the extra stuff on top of it, gambling and like, my team did this and your team sucks, and people talking shit about each other, people getting into fights over their teams and all of it. It's like, where's the fun in that? We're obsessively looking at sports, and you can apply this idea, this mentality to anything. It's not just sports, You can do it with, like, I'm a history major, and I really, really love World War II, and that's the one thing that I study to the exclusion of everything else. I just study World War II. World War II is the best because the most things happened, and we were an advanced civilization when that happened, and all of these things. So I'm studying World War II, and it's super important and it's super cool. And yeah, fuck the ancient times and fuck all this stuff. No, it's all important. It's all perfect. Hey there. How's it going? Good. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you. You found a porcupine? No kidding. All right. Have a good one. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not too secluded here where I'm sitting. And so, yeah, I'm sorry. I like to bounce around and talk about different stuff. It just kind of, that's how it comes up at me. None of this stuff that I talk about is rehearsed. It just comes out of me. It flows out of me. I'm not like thinking about what I'm going to say next. A lot of people, they're planning and they're thinking, and then when you plan and you think, and then things don't turn out the way or don't come out the way that you wanted them to, then now you're disappointed because you've created this expectation. And so if you're just like flowing and you're just going with everything and it comes out naturally, what you're doing at that point, you're basically just like, you're channeling the energy of who you are. And it's just flowing through you. You become the channel. You become the beacon of light. You become the fountain. There's so many ways to describe it, but like, none of them are it. It's just little ways of like getting you to understand what the mind is, what you are versus what the mind is. So you have to become your most authentic spiritual self. You have to conquer the mind. Don't let it conquer you. All of these various like versions of mental illness, physical illness, it's all because of the mind. And how the mind chooses to get manifested in the physical body, where energy gets stuck. The foods that you eat, the people that you surround yourself with, the things that you think, the places that you give your energy. When you get rid of all of the fucking noise and you become rooted in yourself and you become like truly embedded in yourself, the illnesses magically go away. because the energy is flowing now. And yes, diet and exercise and fresh air and sunlight, those things are important, okay? They're very important. But the most important is your spiritual state of being. I cannot emphasize that enough, guys. And then when you find your spiritual state, then the diet isn't as important, because you're like, I just kind of eat what I feel like eating. And then maybe you have some like moral or ethical concerns about what you eat, and animals and no animal products, and eggs and cheese, and veggies versus meat, and all this different stuff. But first become aligned and then start examining it. Stop casting shade and judgment on all these people because you're just so ethically and morally superior because you're a vegan, or because you're a vegetarian and you're like, oh, meat, or you're a carnivore and you're like, oh, fuck those vegans, I'm a carnivore, I only eat meat. It goes both ways. Different people have different dietary needs. Different people have different spiritual needs as well. And so don't condemn somebody because they're Christian or Islamic or Buddhist or Taoist or Hindu or, whatever. Mine is better than yours. I have my version of right and your version of... It's all truth. Every religion is true. It is. Every religion is true. Every religion points to the truth. The problem, and where it's not fully true, so I guess I should amend what I said, but the problem is that you have unconscious people, or not, or somewhat conscious, somewhat aware, but not fully. So they don't understand the totality of what they're trying to explain, and they get stuck on these rules and these laws that they make up at this time. And that's not what God is. God doesn't care how you live your life. He really doesn't. If he cared so much, he would step in and intervene in your behavior and stop it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if it happens, there's no arguing with the reality of what exists and what happens. If I do something, it happened. And whether you want to label that as right or wrong is fine. There's no such thing, honestly, when you zoom out far enough, with right or wrong. But there are some things that are more aligned. What you're trying to do is align yourself. The highest good, the truth, the eternity, right? You're trying to find that in your actions and your behaviors. And so you just naturally start to carry yourself that way. You're not like, oh, I'm so mind fucked, I have to like constantly like, oh, like how do I do this and what do I do here and what do I do there, and I have to examine and analyze every single aspect of every behavior of everything that there is, and there's a right or wrong, and there's right or wrong, and there's only this and that. And it's like, and so like you'll have like, for example, like the ancient Jews, and they had like hundreds and thousands of these laws, and you can't do this and you can do this and you can't do this. And then here comes this Jesus guy, comes along, and he's like, hey guys, I think you're like overdoing it a little bit, because it's really not that heavy. There's just really basic stuff, man, and the rest will take care of itself. Don't be a dick, right? Be a considerate person. Care for others. Do unto others as you'll have them do unto you, kind of stuff, right? Really simple. And the other part, the most important part, love God. Don't reject God. Love God. Why? Because the true spiritualist, the true seeker, the true chosen understands that God literally is everything. And so if you love God, by default, you love everything. And the love expands out of you and comes into you and expands and contracts and in waves, and it's lovely. It feels good. It's blissful, it's joyous, it's happy, it smiles, it laughs. It's not so heavy and dark and depressing. Oh, dun dun dun, you know? It's not like that. It doesn't have to be. Literally everything. So the idea that you have of what God is, like someone's gonna come, God is like this, God is like that. God is Jesus. And if you don't believe in Jesus, then you're going to hell for all eternity. Like, what? Who came up with that bullshit? I want to know. Who was the first guy to think of that and said, you know what, we're going to peddle this shit? And then it became that entrenched dogma. And now everyone's like, Jesus died for our sins. And if we don't believe in Jesus, we'll never get into heaven. And like all this, that's the delusion. Like, when Jesus is like, I am the way and the truth and the life and the light and the love and the good, right? Like when he says that kind of a thing, and nobody enters God, nobody sees God but through me. He's saying, I now as I am. He's saying, I now as I am, the state of being that I'm in. I am in the Father and the Father is in me. And so if you get to that place, if you see that place, that's where I am, and that's where you'll be too. He's the example, just like the Buddha, just like Krishna, Rama, Yogananda, Eckhart Tolle, any great spiritualist that has come before us, that has given us truth. He's like, when you're where I am, you'll naturally understand that I am the truth and the love and the life. And so that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand, is that like, get to that place where you understand what he's trying to tell you in that moment. Not like literally, I have to believe in Jesus and I'm this robot and I have to believe, and if I don't believe in Jesus, then I'll never get to the way and the truth and the light, because without Jesus, and it's like, no, he's only the pointer. He's only the sign. He's only the example. He's trying to get everyone, and every other spiritual teacher is trying to get everyone to understand that you can also be that. And that's why he's laying out like all these guides as like these behavioral guides. And that's why he's giving these parables and giving these truths and like trying to point to these things. And he's like, yo, have faith, believe. And he's like, I can't give you the faith. I can't. And they're like, and the disciples are like, Jesus, increase our faith. And he's like, motherfucker, I can't. That's what you control. That's your own divinity. That's your own power and choice. I can't increase your faith. And he's like, look at all this magical shit I keep doing all the time, and yet you still don't believe. And he's like, why are you afraid? You still don't believe. Why are you afraid? Why do you doubt?